To set up your lab notebook for the Mass and Volume Lab, you need two handouts. You need the procedure for the Mass and Volume Lab, and you also need this handout that has several different relationships on it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this handout that has all the graphs and we're going to glue or tape it to the back cover of our lab notebook. We're going to put it here in the back because we're going to use this as a reference for several different labs. Okay, now we're going to go to our next blank page. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write the title at the top. So this is Mass and Volume. And then you're going to put the date. And then the next thing you're going to write is you're going to write the purpose. And the purpose of this lab is to determine the relationship between mass and volume for 4 different materials. And then below that, we're going to put our hypothesis. And your hypothesis is going to read, I predict the relationship between mass and volume to be a, and then instead of a blank, you're going to go to the back cover, those graphs we just put in, and there are different types of relationships. So there's a positive linear, there's an exponential, there's a square root, there's a negative linear, an inverse, and an inverse square. So you're going to pick one of these relationships that you think is most likely to be the relationship for mass and volume. Now, you're going to do 4 different substances. 2 of those are going to be solids, 2 of those are going to be liquids. So if you think it's going to be different for the solid versus the liquid, you can write your hypothesis twice. I think the relationship between mass and volume will be blank for solids, and then you could write it again, I think it'll be blank for liquids. If you think it's going to be the same, you can just write it once. I think the relationship between mass and volume will be, and then whatever relationship you think. So it will be a blank relationship. And so remember, this isn't a blank for you. I want you to pick what type of relationship it is. And then after that, you're going to put in your procedure. So you'll glue or tape it in. Okay, and then after you've put that in, we're going to set up the rest of our lab notebook. So after our materials and our procedure, we'll have observations. Remember, observations are words, not numbers. We're going to leave some space for observations, and we're going to put in our data table. And you can build that as you go. You're gonna measure mass and volume a total of 12 different times. So you have 4 different substances. You're gonna make the measurement 3 times for each substance. So 3 times for each solid and 3 times for each liquid. So you can set that up however makes the most sense to you. After your data table, we are going to be graphing something. So you'll need a spot for your graph. And then my suggestion is to not put in where your summary is going to go because you don't know how big your graph is going to be yet. So just leave the space and then know after your graph, you're going to put in your summary for the lab. And that's how you set up your lab notebook for mass and volume.